It loses.
Might have to bang that one more time.
Give it one more good old bang.
What a good time.
One more.
Welcome. Good evening. Oh, I like that call and response. You don't usually get that in these meetings. It's a different kind of response. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This is the December 5th, 2023 meeting of the Carrboro Town Council. This is our organizational meeting, which is our biannual time to celebrate an incoming brand new town council. So I'm glad that you're here to join us. I do have a couple of announcements to share before I get on with the celebration. And the first is just to share some somber news. I think news, though, that many of you will find important to hear. Longtime Carrboro resident David Otto, who many of you know, passed away peacefully yesterday at UNC Hospitals. And I just wanted to say that in addition to all the great work he has done in the community over many years, Dave was a bit of an unofficial Carrboro historian. And you may know that he co-authored, along with Richard Ellington, another longtime Carrboro resident, a 2-volume work on the town's history, which I encourage you to go check out. If you need to know how to get a copy, please get in touch. I know that many of you knew Dave Otto personally, and I'll just ask that you keep his family in your hearts. Second announcement I wanted to make is that tonight's weather forecast once again calls for freezing temperatures. And so I'll just announce again, as I did a couple weeks ago, that the cold weather shelters at the IFC Community House and Home Start facilities will be operating tonight, as will an additional cold weather shelter at the county's Southern Human Services Center on Homestead Road in Chapel Hill. As I said a couple meetings ago, please also know that the IFC is taking donations of new and gently used winter gear. So if you have anything to share or donate, please do that, the IFC, on weekdays during their regular business hours. All right. So next, I'll get us back to why we're here tonight, and that is to celebrate an incoming town council. And I'm going to start by doing what is always a challenge for the person presiding at these functions, which is recognizing our special guests. I've made a list, and I hope it's complete. We're going to start at the top with the most important, of course, and that is our very own Congresswoman Valerie Foushee. We're also joined by State House Representative Renee Price. Thank you, Representative Price. District Court Judge and former Carrboro Council member Joel Brown is here. The chair of the Orange County Board of Commissioners, Jamesetta Bedford, is here. And she is joined by Commissioner Anna Richards. The chair of the Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools Board of Education, Ronnie Dossie, is here. As is board member-elect, congratulations, Vicki Fornville. And former board member Elizabeth Carter is here. We don't forget about you, Liz. Happy to be joined this evening also by Chapel Hill Town Council member Paris Miller Foushee, as well as Hillsborough Commissioner Matt Hughes.
Come outside.
We have basically all of our local governments represented here, so I'm very proud about that. I'm coming to them. Yeah. Got the real special people coming up next. No, I'm kidding. Now, I wanted to recognize a few Carrboro special folks, former elected officials from Carrboro, who all of you, I think, know, especially being visited here today by former Mayor Mike Nelson.
World traveler.
As well as former Mayor Lydia Lavelle. And last, but definitely not least, is the icon former council member Braxton Foushee. Right, dangerous question. Who did I miss? All right, I'm gonna move on quick. Thank you all for being here. It really is important, I think, especially for the incoming council, to see you here representing your constituencies and being a part of this celebration. So thanks for doing that. We start every meeting in Carrboro, unlike many local governments, with a poetry reading. Our poet laureate, Liza Wolfe Francis, is actually traveling with her family on a much-deserved vacation right now, but she has asked our former poet laureate, who I hope has made it, Fred Joyner, to do a reading for us. Is Fred here? May not have made it yet, unless he's out front. Okay. Well, if he's able to get here, we'll come to him in a bit. And with that, the first official act of the meeting is coming, and that is the oath of office for our mayor-elect. And to do that will be Congresswoman Foushee.
Oh, Braxton.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Yes, ma'am.
you would allow me to make a statement
Of course.
briefly.
Congresswoman, will you speak into the microphone there so that everyone at home can hear you?
Around here.
Thank you for this opportunity. I just want people to know how humbling it is for me to have been bestowed this honor to administer the oath of office to the first African-American woman for the town of Carrboro. Going with all of you to bear witness to this event. So again, thank you, and thank you, Barbara, for the honor. Should I stay here? And with that.
Yep.
I, Barbara M. Foushee,
I, Barbara M. Foushee,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and the constitutional powers
and the constitutional powers
and authorities which are
which are
or may be established
or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor
that I will endeavor
to support,
to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent
not inconsistent
with the Constitution of the United States,
with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge
to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and abilities,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
as
mayor for the town of Carrboro.
as mayor for the town of Carrboro.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
You know what? Can my hands stop shaking? sure I'll have to adjust it. It belonged to a tall person. So good evening again.
What's up?
The mic is hot. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. So next on our agenda, we will have the oath of office for Council Member Eleazar Posada.
Which way you want to do it? Okay, I'll stand right there. All right. So this is an honor and a privilege, and I thank you for asking me to do it. That's so kind of you. Please repeat after me. I, Eleazar Posada,
I, Eleazar Posada,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are
which are
or may be established
or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor
that I will endeavor
to support, maintain, and defend
support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge
to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as council member
as council member
for the town of
for
Carrboro.
the town of Carrboro.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I don't need to sign. Sí, así, vas a estar.
I sign and okay, then I don't. No, it's all right. It's a good thing. Congratulations.
Oops, my bad. I'm sorry. Oh, that was
A little low.
a little bit. There we go.
Next on our agenda, the oath of office for Council Member-elect Catherine Frey.
Way. They stand here. Good evening, everyone. This is a privilege for me as well. Thank you for asking. Repeat after me. I, Catherine Frey,
I, Catherine Frey,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent
not inconsistent
with the Constitution of the United States,
with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge
to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as council member
as council member
for the town of
for the
Carrboro.
town of Carrboro.
Awesome.
Next, we'll have the oath of office for Councilmember-elect Jason Merrill. All right, now he got a cheering section. You better do it.
And I just want to say, as an Onslow County native, I am absolutely honored to do this for you as well. I, Jason Merrill,
I, Jason Merrill,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are or may
which are or may
be established for
be established for
the government thereof,
the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent
not inconsistent
with the Constitution of the United States,
with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge
to the best of my knowledge
and ability,
and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as council member for the town of Carrboro.
as council member for the town of Carrboro.
Congratulations.
Carrboro community, meet your new council. Next on the agenda, we'll have comments by the mayor and council members. And I guess I'll go ahead and go first. I'm going to move up to the dais, up to the podium there. Good evening, Carrboro community, and thank you for this level up in leadership to be your next mayor. I have gratitude for the past 6 years to be able to serve as one of your representatives on the Carrboro Town Council. It has been an honor to serve. I was pondering how long my comments would be this evening. I'm not going to tell you how long they're going to be.
It's a sermon.
My dear husband reminded me that tonight is a special moment that will never be repeated, and that I should not be too concerned about time, so I'll probably take up some space here tonight. I stand on the shoulders of giants, in this community, some of which are among us tonight. Some have gone on to glory. And the magnitude of this moment is not lost on me, as I am the first Black woman mayor to serve this community and the second Black person to hold this office. Respect and love to the late Bob Drakeford, the first Black mayor of Carrboro. One of my favorite quotes comes from the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I hope that this quote resonates, inspires, and encourages others to step up to leadership, whether it be as an elected official or out in the street as an activist. If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. Page 1. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and you can be that servant. My service to this community in any capacity has never been about me. Bringing others along and having more voices at the table have always been at the center of my service. Thankfully, I don't step into this role alone. I bring my family and community along with me. I am guided by my lived experience, moral compass, and the voices from this community. Family is community, and community is family. So I'm going to acknowledge a few folks here tonight. And I am going to start with my husband, Braxton, a rock star and a game changer. I'm going to tell you a funny story. I'm really getting ready to get off here. I didn't know who Braxton was when I met him. When you first meet Braxton, he does not lead with anything he's done or who he is. He is one of the most humble people that I know. And he did what he did and continues to do because it needs to be done. You won't hear him talk about desegregating the UNC hospital's cafeteria. He did that. You won't hear him talk about how instrumental, and I'm looking at him. I love him, he knows that. How instrumental he was in getting bus service here in Carrboro, getting streets paved in the Black community. The list is very long. You will never hear him talk about it because that's not who he is. And that's one of the things that I love and most admire about my husband. He's the best. I thought he was going to divorce me when I told him I was going to run for mayor. But we survived that one. I thought he was going to divorce me because he looked at me like I had 3 heads. He said, didn't we just do a campaign 2 years ago? So my maiden name is Middleton. It's not Fushi. I'm married into the loving and close-knit Fushi family. My maiden name is Middleton. The Middleton family is represented here tonight. My cousins Claude and Gerald are here tonight. That is my father's side of the family. My cousin might be in the overflow. My mom's side of the family is Dixon, and of course Fushi, the wonderful family that I married into. These are certainly my people. They surround me all the time, no matter what I'm doing, with love and care and lots of prayer. And I could not do any of this without them. Those of you that know me intimately know that I'm the last living member in my immediate family. And so I'm going to channel my pastor, Reverend Coleman, as he described to me. He said, hey, you have a new normal now. And my new normal are my cousins, a few aunts, uncles, some really swell girlfriends. These are my family now, and I'm grateful for all of them. James Keenan High School, class of 1982, do. Are you in the house tonight? Man, I could have never been as excited as I was to see some of my classmates roll up in here tonight from James Keenan High School in Warsaw, North Carolina. I love them. Herman Outlaw, Dexter Smith. Robert Osborne Moore is not my classmate, but he is a trusted friend, and he is my homeboy. He's also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. I'm gonna let him go with that. Go ahead, Robert. And of course, my girl, Betty McKeever Smith, who sits quietly with her hand up. These folks travel here tonight to share this moment with me, and I appreciate it. My campaign team, I saw at least one member here tonight. They were absolutely amazing this time. They assembled again 2 years after, me winning re-election to the town council, and rode with me to the mayor's seat again. So I appreciate them. They're amazing. I'm not sure if Reverend Coleman is here tonight. First Lady Crystal Coleman. Hey! You better come in here, Reverend Coleman. So, he got me off my game. And so my pastor, the Reverend Rodney L. Coleman, and his lovely wife, First Lady Crystal Coleman, this is where I am, on most Sunday mornings, getting the word for the week. And I love my First Baptist Church family. They surround me all the time, not just during campaigns. And so I do want to recognize them here tonight. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I see some sorors back there. I'm not going to act up too much. But they are here. I am a member of the Chapel Hill Zetas, where our basilisk is Dr. Shana Holman. I'm going to need my sorors to stand up here for a second. I'm going to give them a little work to do. Yes, and I thank them for coming. I talk about the sorority not because I am. Yeah, you see, they're rolling up deep. So I talk about my sorority not because I am in a sorority, but because this is literally where my service life began 38 years ago. Today is also my Zetaversary. I was initiated on December 5th, 1985. And so we also stand on one of our founding principles, which is all about service. And so I will always credit my sorority and my sorors for the start of my service life. I love them. They're my girls. Sit down now. Y'all sit down now. There is also a trusted group of advisors, mentors, and friends that are affectionately known to me as the Queens. And that's all I'm going to say about that. These are women that I go to for guidance. They're trusted folks, and I appreciate them. I love them, to the highest. They're always there for me no matter what's going on. So I thank y'all. There are probably some other folks I've missed, but I charge it to my head and not to my heart. Well, this night is a night of nights. Page 2. As my hands continue to shake a little bit. So I ran on a platform that revolved around community building, about issues that matter to all of us. We are all neighbors in this community. And, I'm bold enough to know that we can do more together as we continue to make room at the table for everyone. I want the doors of this community to be wide open for all who want to live here, work here, and play here. This council will be about accountability, transparency, fairness, and responsibility to the community that it serves. Everyone realizes these are all keys to good governance. Guess what, y'all? In closing, I seek first to understand, but I also want to be understood. I commit to seeing, I commit to listening, I commit to loving this community that we all call home as we continue to do this work together. Thank you. Well, I'm done. Who got next? Who got next?
All right.
Well, I don't know the order because I wanted to have some comments to honor the outgoing folks. So
It doesn't matter.
I think that we've got the resolutions, but you have additional?
yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Let's take it on to resolutions, right? I'm saying speech, new people, speech.
I think that's what.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'm not going to go at the podium.
Don't have.
Buenas noches. Okay, we're going to try that again. Buenas noches. There we go. Hace un año ustedes me eligieron para ser el primer latino LGBTQ elegido en este estado. Y hoy es otro ejemplo de la confianza que han puesto en mi liderazgo, el trabajo que ha hecho la comunidad para tener representación en esta junta y lo que han hecho varios de mis voluntarios y miles de personas en esta ciudad para hacer su voz escuchada. I'm going to do it in English for those who don't speak Spanish. A year ago, this community elected me to serve as the first openly queer Latino elected in North Carolina. And today, you have shown not only the trust in my vision and my leadership, but your commitment to continued diversity and inclusion on this board. Tonight is a representation of not just me, but so many in the community who have made it possible for me to sit at this table. Like our mayor mentioned, I too stand on the shoulders of giants. Not just someone who I consider a close friend like Braxton Fushi, but all the other LGBTQ electeds who have put, in many cases, their lives on the line so that I could have this moment. And I want to take a little bit of time to thank a couple of the people who made me who I am today. First is that lovely young woman sitting on the first row next to Congresswoman Fushi, my mother, Maria Esther Posada Lara. This woman fought to keep her kids alive. She fought back from homelessness, and taught us that we fight for community. We fight for our family. Because at the end of the day, that's who we have. And it's because of her I learned not just that in order to lead, you need to know how to follow. That you may think you're the smartest person in the room, but honey, no, you're not.
Somebody know more than you.
And that nothing in life is going to be handed to me. Nothing in life is going to be handed to us as people of color, as immigrants, as you name it. Nothing is going to be handed to us, and we fight for everything that our community needs. And we use the privileges we have to push that forward, push our families, our communities forward. So I hope I've made you proud. To my brothers, Josue and Jonathan, thank you for always having my back. Thank you for many times calling me in. Well, really calling me out, but we'll let that go.
What is it?
And for reminding me that no matter what, I have at least 2 people in this world who will have my back. Even if I go to jail, which I don't want to go to jail, by the way. But those 2 are, what's the term, ride or die?
I don't die, baby.
And another person who was not able to be here tonight, but holds my heart as he studies for his finals in Atlanta, Humberto. As you may know, we've got engaged a year ago, or a little bit less than a year ago. And this man has been in my life for the last 7 years in some way, shape, or form. And is a person who hears my rants about whether it's something going on this council, in community, in Raleigh, which he hears a lot about Raleigh, by the way, or any other issue, happiness, moment of stress, and ensures that I keep myself grounded. He keeps me grounded. And I know he's watching at home. Babe, I love you. And the last person I want to recognize is all of you. Every single person who has interacted with me in any way, shape, or form, whether you've agreed with me or not, whether you've liked what I've done or not, whether you're congratulating me or not. Because at the end of the day, how I see my role in this seat is to hear from community, is to represent community to the best of my ability, and to ensure that the values of this town are being heard, are being seen, and are putting into effect as we make decisions in this council. And every moment that I sit on here, I vowed this last year. I'll do it again this year. Every moment I sit on this council is to represent my community to the best of my ability. Thank you, everyone.
This thing on. Hey, y'all. Mic check. This will come to no surprise to anyone that saw me campaigning this season, but I have no prepared statement. But I would like to say thank you to everyone that helped me run the campaign, helped me kind of turn a harebrained scheme into a seat here at the table, and trusted me to do the best job I can. And that's what I'm here to do. And I'm ready to have some snacks and get to work. Thanks.
Well, I guess I can't stall any longer. I actually have to say something. Y'all, I just want to start by calling out what an amazing, weird, lovely little town Carrboro is, right? When you think about where the history of Carrboro starts and where we have gotten to and how much more work we have to do. It's this beautiful tapestry of a town of all of us right now getting out and pulling in one direction and pushing in another and working together to make Carrboro the strange little place it is. I'm going to tell a story, a brief one, because I will actually put a down payment on all the talking you're probably going to hear from me over the next 4 years, and I'll be fairly brief. I'm going to tell a story on my dad, and first of all, I wanted to say thank you to my parents who are both here, who moved to Carrboro, and ever since have been throwing themselves into figuring out also what their role is in this wonderful town. It's a little surprising that they're here because when I first moved to Carrboro, my dad came downtown with me, and we had lunch and we walked around, and he said, "Why are you in this place? This looks like a dump." This is my dad, who is a very blunt person, and I said, "You don't get it." And he came back a couple years later and he said, "Okay, I think I get it. It's not the buildings, it's the people." I said, "Yep, that's it." And a couple years later he said, "I think I'd like to move to Carrboro." It has that effect, right? It draws people in for a whole variety of reasons. People come here and they never can leave. They never want to leave at any rate. And so that story sticks with me when I think about what Carrboro is and why I wanted to serve. It's not the buildings, it's the people. I also want to say thank you to my wife, Amy. Please don't perceive her. She does not want to be perceived. But who I could not have done this without, would never have done this if I did not have her support. So thank you. Love you. I also want to take a moment to thank the amazing mentors that I've had in Carrboro and in Carrboro politics, including, but not at all limited to, Bethany Cheney, former Mayor Damon Siles, Braxton Fouché, not to mention our Mayor Barbara Fouché. The amazing just, what did you say, Barbara? You said giants, right? The people who find their place in this town and then reach out and pick somebody else up and say, "You have a place here too." We have a lot of firsts in Carrboro. Let me think through it. And this year we added one more. Carrboro had, if I remember correctly, the first ever gay mayor in the state of North Carolina. And you've now added to that the first ever non-binary elected official in the state of North Carolina. So I don't know quite what it is I want to say here in closing, other than thank you for being part of this strange and amazing town that I never want to leave.
Nothing now. No? You don't have anything? That's fine. Move on. So it looks like we're down to the council photo of the new town council. Is he coming? So bear with us as we take the first official photo of the new town council. We're waiting for the photographer to come. You don't do that.
I thought it was just the camera.
Oh my God. I agree with that.
It looks like
She's just gonna
they're both.
Yeah.
know how to do this. I need y'all fix this. Smile. I got these. I gotta go get my granddaughter.
Did we take him maybe deep forward last?
Thank you. I was thinking of everybody's me graduating at North Carolina A&T.
Didn't say is we'll take a brief recess while we do this photo. You guys are wild.
Yeah. Love that. Yes. Yes.
Do it again.
No, once is enough. We're good.
We're going to go ahead and resume the agenda for tonight, and we are down to resolutions honoring outgoing council members and mayor. If I could get outgoing or former council member Susan Romaine to meet me up here. A resolution honoring Councilmember Susan Romaine. Whereas Susan Romaine has served the community as a member of Carrboro Town Council for 4 years, having been elected in 2019. And whereas during her tenure on the Town Council, Susan represented the council on the Economic Sustainability Commission, the Northern Transition Area Advisory Committee, the Planning Board, the Truth Plaque Task Force, the Intergovernmental Parks Work Group, and the Orange County Local Government Affordable Housing Collaborative. And whereas prior to her election to Town Council in 2010, Susan and two neighbors co-founded Chapel Hill Carrboro Porch, a neighbor-to-neighbor hunger response and relief program, and since 2015 has been an instrumental advocate and is a current board member of Orange County Living Wage. And I guess I should look at Susan a little bit. And whereas Susan's time on Town Council was quickly transformed by the COVID-19 pandemic, during which her thoughtfulness, compassion, and superb communication efforts made her a true resource, connecting neighbors to the many resources available to them through our town and county governments. And whereas following the pandemic, Susan walked, and she did this, Susan walked every street in Carrboro to reconnect with her neighbors in the physical landscape of our town. And whereas Susan has been a pragmatic and forward-thinking steward of Carrboro's economic viability, advocating for responsible use of town resources and for support of Carrboro's many local businesses, entrepreneurs, and employees. And whereas Susan has never let that pragmatism stand in the way of her care for her neighbors, leading her to fight for increased housing affordability and accessibility. And whereas Susan has consistently worked to make sure relief for COVID-19 and other economic hardships has gone to the community members most in need. And whereas Susan has been a paragon of accessibility through her tenure, responding to every single email she has received from neighbors. And whereas Susan has been, oh, did I just read that? Yeah, I did. Whereas Susan was thoroughly diligent in her town council preparedness, Susan consistently, reliably, and carefully read each and every town council agenda and associated materials. And whereas Susan provided detailed feedback, assessment, and recommendations on critical budgetary matters for council consideration that included and were not limited to Town of Carrboro's annual budget, federal ARPA and IRA funding, municipal, county, and state grants and assistance program funding. And whereas if her vigilant proofreading of the council minutes is any indication, Susan will likely have some corrections to make to this very resolution. And whereas Susan has been as reliable a source of truffles and the occasional pastry, which I will miss, before a long meeting as she has been a source of thorough consideration and a flexible approach to even the most complex issues. And whereas Susan has been a fair, compassionate, open-minded, and responsive representative of every single Carrboro resident. And whereas her cheerful good nature, collaborative spirit, and warm generosity will be missed by her colleagues. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carrboro Town Council expresses its deepest gratitude to Susan Romaine for her service to the town of Carrboro and all of Orange County this, the 5th day of December, 2023. Okay, we got a little something, something. It says Susan Romaine Lane.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to?
Yeah, I'd love to.
You get all this.
Thank you, Barbara. You hear me okay? Why that it felt a little bit like getting to hear your eulogy. That was so beautiful. Thank you all. You touched me. So, if I were to tell a 3-minute Cliff Notes version of my 4 years in office, it would be a story of resiliency that goes something like this. In the face of a global pandemic, Carrboro is knocked down and locked down. With a steady hand on the wheel, Mayor Lydia Lavelle joins with community partners in declaring a state of emergency. We retreat from common spaces and replace them with Zoom calls. Community volunteers help with food distribution. Staff distributes masks door to door. A food hub, Carrboro United, is formed as a lifeline for local restaurants. A more massive lifeline is the federal government in the form of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Carrboro targets our relief to our most vulnerable, small businesses at risk of shuttering, lower income residents at risk of eviction, and communities of color disproportionately impacted by the pandemic due to underlying systemic inequalities. But slowly, the community begins planning for a better future, a future centered around race, equity, and climate action. Through unprecedented community engagement that's still over Zoom, a shared vision for Carrboro is articulated in our first ever comprehensive plan. The plan is built on more compact, walkable, bikeable, and transit-oriented development, more abundance and variety in housing, and safer, greener connectivity from north to south and from east to west. The first visible signs of a better future appear at the 203 project's downtown construction site. Concrete slab by concrete slab, a branch library, recreation and park space, a county skills development center take shape, a hub for gathering, recreating, and job training. All the things that the pandemic revealed are so sorely needed for a full recovery. From 203 South Greensboro Street, we pave the way for more connections, this time through our greenways. With overwhelming community support, the long-time missing piece of Bowling Creek Greenway Phases 3 and 4 is finally filled with a creekside alignment. From Estes Park Apartments to Lake Hogan Farms, the pathway will safely connect us to our neighborhoods, our parks, jobs, civic, and social spaces, even Chapel Hill. And one day, serve as a safe route to school for our kids and our grandkids. The next chapter of the story will be written by you, our new council. Danny, Jason, Randy, Barbara, Eleazar, and Catherine. My story will be connected with your story through the comprehensive plan, the 203 project, and Bowling Creek Greenway. But you'll have fresh content too, and I am over the moon about all of the new possibilities and bold initiatives under your watch. You are backed by dedicated community volunteers staffing our advisory boards and commissions and thoroughly informing your decision-making. You are teamed with an exceptional interim manager, Marie Parker, and her staff. They are the very definition of public servants, hardworking, responsive, thorough, and highly professional.
we would be hard-pressed to find any town the size of Carrboro that squeezes so much out of so few. They deserve our support and our gratitude and our grace. To this community, thank you for entrusting me in this role as Carrboro Town Council member. It has really been the honor of my lifetime. I have learned from you, I have been inspired by you, I've cared deeply about you, and I've really tried to do my best by you. As I step away from public service, I look forward to finding new ways to continue to serve this really special place that I call home. Finally, I would like to shine the light on just a few folks who, to me, have epitomized servant leadership over the course of my 4 years on council. Sammy Slade and Damon Siles, who have really moved the needle in so many ways during their combined 24 years of service. Thank you. And Lydia Lavelle and Jackie Gist, who served our community so tirelessly and gracefully over a whopping 46 years. So thank you very much for your service. Managers David Andrews and Richard White, and clerks Kathy Durando, Mary Bryant, Wesley Barker, and our very own Wendy Welsh. And finally, I want to just give a shout out. Our son Andrew is here this evening. Thank you for being here with us, Andrew. And I also want to thank my husband, Craig, who's been my sounding board on all things Carrboro for the last 4 years, and my partner for the last 35 years. So thank you, Craig. Happy holidays to all of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So for the resolution that I just read honoring Councilmember Susan Romaine, can we get a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Posada, seconded by Councilmember Now. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Next, we have a resolution honoring Councilmember Sammy Slade. A resolution honoring Councilmember Sammy Slade. Whereas Sammy has served the community as a member of Carrboro Town Council for 14 years, having first been elected in 2009 and subsequently re-elected in 2013, 2017, and 2019. And whereas prior to his Board of Aldermen election, Sammy chaired the Local Living Economy Task Force. Sammy has served the former Board of Aldermen and Town Council as a liaison to the Air Quality Advisory Group, the Animal Control Board of Appeals, the Recreation and Parks Commission, the Appearance Commission, it's a lot, the Affordable Housing Task Force, he knows it, the Climate Change Committee, the Rogers Road Water Sewer Work Group, the Transportation Advisory Board, the Climate and Energy Task Force, the Economic Sustainability Commission, the Environmental Advisory Board, the Orange County Food Council, the Family Success Alliance, the Orange County Climate Council, the Climate Action Team, the Community Safety Task Force, and the Stormwater Advisory Commission, and as chair of the Local Living Economy Task Force. And I'm moving over by Sammy. And whereas before his time in office, Sammy co-founded the Carrboro Green Space Center for Community and Sustainability and the Carrboro Community Garden Coalition. And whereas Sammy has been a tireless advocate for environmental and climate justice, leading the town to address our planetary climate emergency with the urgency and scope required. And whereas in that work, Sammy was instrumental in the establishment of the Climate Action Task Force and Green Neighborhoods Initiative, which seek to organize residents to work outside and alongside our governmental efforts to address the climate crisis. And whereas, with his attention to detail, keen understanding of intersectionality, and tireless commitment, Sammy led the efforts to operationalize climate justice throughout our town budget, helping both colleagues and residents gain a granular and sophisticated sense of the many opportunities for meaningful action within our institutions. And whereas Sammy has brought that same tireless commitment to his advocacy for working class residents, fighting for a comprehensive vision of affordability that includes transit access, home weatherization, and support for a diverse range of local businesses. And whereas Sammy responded to the COVID-19 pandemic with his characteristically determined care for his neighbors, consistently communicating the necessity of protecting our residents with data-driven advocacy and constant reminders that keeping each other safe is the most important function of community. Whereas Sammy has been an example of transparency and accessibility with residents, never failing to raise the concerns of his neighbors while educating them about the complexities and opportunities for addressing those concerns through our town government. And whereas Sammy has been a faithful representative of Carrboro's activist community in history, constantly pushing his colleagues to consider new ways to use government to more closely reflect the will of our residents. And whereas Sammy has been a consistent source of innovative thinking about urban design, economic vitality, and accessible human-centered infrastructure. And whereas in his 14 years of service, Sammy has been the longest serving Latina in any single office in North Carolina, serving as an inspiration and example to Hispanic and Latinx residents of Carrboro statewide. And whereas, this is going to be fun. I'm sorry, Sammy. Residents have, I didn't write it. Residents have, I'm taking myself off the hook. Whereas residents have appreciated seeing Sammy model his commitment to climate action by getting around town by bike. And we hope that the free time he is soon to have on his hands will allow him to add a helmet to that cycling routine. And whereas Sammy has served as a model of integrity, passion, and commitment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carrboro Town Council expresses its deepest gratitude to Sammy Slade for his service to the people of Carrboro and all of Orange County. This, the 5th day of December, 2023. Yeah. You're welcome. Come on up here. And here's your.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Oh my gosh, that's a good letter of recommendation for something long enough. It racks up. Thank you all so much. Thanks for writing that, and for I've got to reread it because it's just too.
It was a lot.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. I typically don't write anything out, but I figure I might as well try on my last chance. So here it is. And so first, I just want to congratulate our new mayor. It's very exciting, and our new council members. Thank you for representing us and serving. And good luck with everything. And feel free to contact us and your colleagues to get feedback or whatever, whenever. It's with mixed emotions that I pass the baton over after so many of these years of service. It's been a true honor and privilege to have been elected 4 times by the citizens of this wonderful town to try to push us towards what is necessary for doing our part to mitigate climate change. As I prepared these remarks, I was struck by some of the lessons, many hard, that I've learned over these past 14 years. My work in the localization movement led me to the local government where, ironically, I've been made most acutely aware of the importance of support from higher levels of government. The localization movement is an attempt at reclaiming our authentic wholeness. It is contrasted by a modernity system that functions by abstractions and separating everything from everything. This culture of separation works by robbing us of self-recognition. So much pain and death are caused by the cultivated dehumanization and failure to recognize the humanity of others. This is a failure to recognize ourselves in others, but also ourselves in ourselves. For me, nothing underscores this more than the current tragedy taking place in Gaza. Today marks a day when 20,000 people, the equivalent of the entirety of Carrboro's population, have been massacred in a 2-month period. Similarly, in the near future, billions of beings will die because many of Earth's life support systems are collapsing. What does it take to make us see that they are also us? I believe that by taking action at the level where relationships happen, we could find ourselves again. My experience in town government, though, is that there are rules and laws that are imposed by higher levels of government designed to constrain us. There's also a lot of concentrated money spent on putting into office the elected officials who are at those higher levels. That money corrupts the democratic process and results in policies and expenditures that are hugely discrepant with what most people actually want. Moral considerations aside, for local governments, the result is often a lack of sufficient support by those levels. This is compounded or maintained by the billions of dollars that are spent on toxic narratives delivered by mass media. For example, $15 billion are spent annually on auto industry advertisements in the United States. How do those billions compare to what is spent on public transit, biking, and walking advertisements? The fact that such a question sounds weird could be a hint. Democracy is as good as the stories that we are surrounded by. And language matters. Let's call it downtown access, not car parking. We need to see and do things differently, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. I firmly believe that the primary or ultimate relationship that we need to be in is the most local one, the one within ourselves. Discernment and clarity happens through direct experience that is rooted in the heart. Despite the challenges in breaking with modernity and the lack of support that we are up against, within the dominant paradigm, the town does do an amazing amount for its size. The Board of Alder Beings and the Town Council have asked for a lot over the years and recently consolidated much of it in our comprehensive plan. Our town staff deserves the credit for what actually gets done. Thank you. The insufficiency there is mainly a function of the unprecedented urgency, scale, and scope of the climate emergency that we are in, which calls for a necessary break with all norms of how we see and do things. In my humble opinion, we have run out of time for changing sufficiently. I look forward to continuing my community work in a new capacity, a capacity that I don't yet fully know yet for myself, other than that it will be a work of healing towards wholeness again and embracing the grace, with grace, the inevitability of death that we all will end in, hospicing life as we know it. I also look forward to spending more quality time with family, friends, and my 7-year-old daughter who is growing too fast. So thanks to everyone for your support and our work together so far. Much love to you all. Thank you.
Could I get a motion to move the resolution honoring Councilmember Sammy Slade?
So moved.
Seconded.
Yeah, Councilmember Danny Now, and second by Councilmember Catherine Frey. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, resolution honoring former Mayor Damon Siles. I think I said it right even. I don't know.
be a resolution.
This is heavy. It's heavy in here, Damon. A resolution honoring Mayor Damon Siles. Whereas Damon Siles has served the town of Carrboro in an elected capacity for 10 years, having been first elected to the town council in 2013, then subsequently reelected in 2015 and 2019, before his election to the office of mayor in 2021. And whereas during his tenure on the town council and as mayor, Damon represented the council on the Joint Orange Chatham Community Action, the OWASA Taste of Hope Interagency Working Group, the Chapel Hill Transit Partners Committee, the Chapel Hill Public Transit Committee, Transit Partners Committee, the Transportation Advisory Board, MPO TAC, the Orange County Partnership to End Homelessness Leadership Team, the Planning Board Liaison, the Family Success Alliance, the Safe Routes to School Implementation Committee, the Complete Count Committee, the Greenways Commission, the Transportation Advisory Board Liaison, the Affordable Housing Advisory Commission, the Appearance Commission, the Board of Adjustments, all of them, everything, just say all of them, the Community Safety Task Force, the Youth Advisory Board, the Chamber for a Greater Chapel Hill Carrboro Board of Directors, the Chatham Orange Joint Planning Task Force, the North Carolina Metropolitan Mayors Coalition, the Orange County Solid Waste Advisory Group, the Orange County Visitors Bureau Board of Directors, and the Durham Chapel Hill Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Organization. And whereas prior to his election to the town council, Damon was appointed in 2003 to the Orange County Human Relations Commission and later served as a member and chaired the Town of Carrboro Planning Board. And whereas Damon's expertise in planning issues and his commitment to improving town processes made him a champion of the Carrboro Connects comprehensive plan, first advocating for its development during his time as chair of the planning board and then later becoming instrumental in its adoption as mayor. And whereas Damon was a steadfast supporter of the town of Carrboro and Orange County Branch Library 203 project from its conception to its groundbreaking, providing instrumental leadership in building Carrboro's first new municipal structure in 100 years, and expanding both the town and Orange County's capacity to provide much needed and widely anticipated services to Carrboro residents. And whereas Damon led as a steady, very steady presence throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, reassuring his neighbors with characteristic calm demeanor and pragmatism while proactively working to connect town residents with vital resources and opportunities to support one another. And whereas Damon has led the town council's efforts to distribute millions of dollars of relief money through COVID-19 recovery programs and the Inflation Reduction Act, helping Carrboro stabilize after difficult and turbulent times by ensuring resources reach the people and places most impacted by overlapping crises. And whereas Damon has been instrumental in bringing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to Carrboro and implementing safer, more thoughtful, and more environmentally sustainable multimodal connectivity through town. And whereas Damon's representation of the town on the Durham Chapel Hill Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Board has advanced our town's access to planning resources and ability to complete transformative transit projects. Hang on, you want to sit down? Whereas Damon's leadership allowed town council to move with both efficiency and inclusivity, overseeing efforts to set new standards for public engagement and public discussions, while also moving forward complex and detailed plans concerning transit, affordable housing, economic sustainability, racial equity, climate action, and the organization of town staff. And whereas Damon is widely known for his scrupulous fairness and even-keeled demeanor, having presided over meetings with open-mindedness, noticeable calm, and a commitment to extending his colleagues' grace and collegiality. And whereas Damon has tirelessly connected with leaders in other jurisdictions to improve Carrboro's ability to coordinate policy, funding opportunities, and community building efforts. And whereas Carrboro residents have greatly enjoyed Damon's, I don't even know how to pronounce this word. I'm whatever, at town events, both official and unofficial, ranging from, I've been up here reading too long, ranging from Northside community gatherings to the Cat's Cradle to early morning bicycle rides to Carrboro Elementary. That's Damon. And whereas, as a devoted runner, Damon is a go-to entrant in the Cardinal Track Club and Tour de Carrboro road races, the St. Paul's AME 5K benefit. And whereas, thanks to Damon's initiative, he, along with the mayor and 2 of his town council colleagues and a council member of Chapel Hill, were arrested while protesting regressive policies of the GOP-led General Assembly during the mega Moral Monday of June 4th, 2013. Damon expressed at the time the value of leveraging democratic power when he said, "I think that actually being an elected official made it more important for us to make a stand." And whereas, though Damon's ardent support for Arsenal FC might, okay, now I don't know what that is, y'all do, so it's all good. Ardent support for Arsenal FC might mislead the casual observer into mistaking him for another faddish yank bamboozled into unthinking support for a garish Big Six club. His friends know exactly what it is. His philosophical appreciation for Pep Guardiola and an artful build more generally will quickly confirm that he has both a keen eye and a sound moral sensibility regarding the beautiful game. And whereas Damon can pretty well be captured in his essence by having once on a flight to a nationwide convention for local elected officials to discuss the challenges and opportunities of implementing a detailed progressive agenda in a municipal context, put his AirPods in while cheerfully saying, "Time to relax with the new Beyonce," which it should be noted was the album Renaissance, a relatively bracing and upbeat homage to queer house music. And whereas Damon has epitomized, y'all got me twisted up here. Whereas Damon has epitomized servant leadership for more than a decade in his community, setting a standard for thoughtfulness, community engagement, and accessibility that his colleagues will strive to live up to for years to come. Amen. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carrboro Town Council expresses its deepest gratitude to Damon Siles for his service to the people of Carrboro and all of Orange County, this, the 5th day of December, 2023.
Nice.
Somebody did their homework.
A lot of it.
I'm going to try to be pretty brief because I've been sitting on that side of the table for 10 years and the last 2 in the mayor's chair and have had plenty of time at the microphone, so I don't need to take too much more. I do want to say, though, that I often have told my colleagues this and others who come to our council meetings that I still very much remember the first time I stood right here at this podium. I don't remember the year, it was many years ago, certainly before I was on the council. And I was so nervous standing up here to speak. And I'd like to just remind people that that's true for so many of the people who come to our public meetings and speak, that it's not normal in our lives to do this. And just one more reason to remember to give our neighbors some patience and grace when they're coming before us to speak. And remember that you were here before too. And I still get nervous. So thanks for the very kind and weird resolution. So each one of you at the dais has been really important to me in my time on the council. Those of you who've been here for a while, including Randy and Sammy, who were here when I started. Sammy, I should say, is one of the people who I got arrested with at the General Assembly for allegedly doing something or other. And the rest of you who have joined the council today came along exactly when we needed you, so thank you. I also want to join in the appreciation for Sammy and Susan and for your friendship. I look forward to spending time with both of you out in the real world, which this also often does not feel like it is. But most importantly, and to echo something that Sammy said, I'm grateful to our town manager and her staff, our town clerk, and our town attorney. None of what you or the rest of the community are wanting to achieve will get done without them. And I hope that you will remember to recruit, retain, and reward them accordingly. When I look at this new council, I'm just so excited for the work ahead of you. I'm actually a little envious, but don't worry, I am stepping away. I'll be cheering you on from over here on this side of the dais and doing it with gusto, but also I'm going to first go on vacation. So congratulations, and thank you very much.
Motion to move the resolution for former Mayor Damon Siles.
Moved.
Oh.
Everybody,
I already got one. I yield.
and nobody wanted, everybody wanted to. So
moved.
Councilmember Catherine Frey, second by Councilmember Jason Merrill. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion carries. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all who contributed to these resolutions. I know Danny put in some time, as did Randy and probably a few others. But certainly I know that it was a labor of love, for all concerned. And, I'm a little melancholy, because I, been sitting with Damon and Sammy, all of my service on the council. Good, bad, and ugly. It doesn't matter. We've been there together. And certainly the last 4 years with Susan, and just watching her grow into leadership, and with the issues and in community. And so, I just want you to know how much I'll miss you guys on the council, but, you deserve your rest. This is heavy work. So all the best in the next chapter. So I'm going back to my seat now. I think I'm finished up here. Know what?
Want me to share now?
Yes, we'll hear from Councilmember Randy Haven O'Donnell. She has some comments.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an odd moment. I've known Damon and Sammy for 20 years and worked with both of you. So I wanted to share some comments. Some may be repeated from what you heard in the resolution. And thank you, Danny, for working on that. That was it was great to work on and great to hear how it all came together. Sammy, I fondly remember your old Pittsboro Road house and the potlucks and the great chats everyone got together and partied and had there. We worked together at that time envisioning a robust community climate action and established a commitment at that time to live and buy locally. And then with Michael Schumann's Small Mart Revolution, which was a wonderful book that we all shared with the Board of Aldermen, we initiated the Local Living Economy Task Force. Thank you for chairing that and bringing to it a spirit of locomotive. Remember the night over beers? Locomotive, we'll call it locomotive. Perfect. The community engagement that came out of that effort and the trial Carrboro Plenty, the script that we had, working with Abundance in Chatham County and the folks in Alamance. So and one of the tagline of the Plenty was, "In each other we trust." That was beautiful work. Together with task force members, we attended the Business Alliance for Local Living Economy, or BALI, and helped guide Carrboro's Buy Local business program, ensuring more dollars recirculate locally, advancing what we now call our Local Living Economy and our Economic Sustainability Commission. We were there in the early 2000s. You were there with me, with Ed Whitkin and a group of students when we put in the first mini solar lanterns in the Carrboro Town Commons. You've always been a champion for renewable energy and energy efficiency and the resources that go with that, which included and are not limited to solar, electrification, weatherization, as was mentioned. You looked at Carrboro buildings and the fleet vehicles and pressed us to look at their efficiency and emissions reduction. Further, Sammy, I want to thank you for the groundwork that you've done to help frame and guide the implementation of the Community Climate Action Team and Task Force, and helping to guide that task force into the action team. The work that was done and the advent of the Green Neighborhood Initiative, a program which is now being realized and is in action when we only dreamed it was possible. While we may spar on many topics, as a science educator, I have deep and sincere appreciation for all of the work that you've done, that we've done together, and the way you've helped frame the council and the Board of Aldermen and the council to move forward on climate resiliency, mitigation, and action. So thank you. For Susan, Susan, I've known you since 2014. I met you when I was dropping off my porch donations to your garage in Lake Hogan Farms at the time. And you were organizing rows and rows of bags of foods and food containers. That's how we met. You're masterful at grassroots organizing. I was thoroughly impressed by the work that you and Debbie and Christine were doing at that time, and mostly because you were building relationships among Carrboro citizens, neighbors and neighborhoods, and you were reinforcing family food security at the same time. You extended your knowledge-based work and experience with Porch to the Orange County Living Wage. That initiative, I think it was around 2015, and I attended several meetings with you, and I was excited to see that that effort was readily adopted not only by Carrboro but Orange County commissioners. I want to thank you for your vision and your deep understanding of the critical importance of nonprofit organizations and the role that they play in advancing our social justice and our race equity work, and you've been at the heart of that. Susan, you came on council just as the pandemic lockdown hit, and we Zoomed for nearly a year and a half. And that must have been the oddest onboarding of a council member ever. I remember you were like, when are we going to meet together and be in the same room? But as a council member and colleague, Susan, you've always done your homework. And as an educator and a classroom teacher, I can tell you, you can really tell you did your homework. By Friday night, Susan red-penciled and highlighted the up-and-coming agenda and the minutes and packet contents. By Sunday night and Monday morning, Susan would email comprehensive a set of meeting notes and edits and recommendations to the clerk. And that was even done on the Mondays when I knew you had Porch. So I don't know how you did it. You can be counted on to read through each and every agenda item, at each attachment, and each resource. And you demonstrated a dedication of focus, mindfulness, and preparedness that is unmatched. You've made time to engage in deep conversation, exploring and questioning and examining content to enrich our council conversations. And Susan, you're actively engaged across the entire Carrboro community. You can be counted on to follow up with community members on their interests, concerns, and projects. I want to thank you for your service, your authentic, caring for community, and thoughtful work with the council and the efforts for council collegiality. So thank you. And Damon, we have worked together since 2003. We met in 2003 when the both of us were appointed to the Orange County Human Relations Commission. You, me, Artie Franklin, and Milan Pham. We were very active and excited by the potential of our visions and how far we could push Orange County commissioners. Not long afterwards, you were appointed to the planning board, and that was a perfect match for your deep interest in planning and policy. It became, it was like a wonk's heaven, right? And I want to thank you for your excellent work chairing the planning board. I was looking over photos over the last 2 decades, campaigns, human rights, social justice, civil rights and gender equality, gun violence, marches, vigils, protest. I watched as you and Mark and Michelle were arrested, and Sammy, yeah, and and as I was watching, I was pea-green with jealousy because I would have been dumped out of my teaching job had I been arrested. But you were all courageous, and I really appreciated the work that you did and what you had to bear up, because the arrest itself wasn't the end of the story. It was really just the beginning. And the moments that we stood in misery and in deep sense of comfort that we found as we stood together in solidarity at the vigils for Parkland and Pulse. That's not to be forgotten. I especially love the photos of us partnered hammering the timbers for Cobb Street and Lloyd Broad, the Habitat for Humanity. We've worked with 3 town managers, clerks, and numerous iterations of aldermen and council. You are one of the hardest working mayor council members that I know. I appreciate all the challenges your tenure as mayor has faced: the pandemic, reentry, pandemic blues, a new manager, huge new plans being launched and implemented. And I'm going to thank you for the quality time that you dedicated to community and our council. You always checked in with every council member. And you worked to establish community office hours that you stayed consistent to. And sometimes that was really hard to do, especially during pandemic time. Since your mayorship, and you're also known as the go-to Carrboro bus and bike man, I just want you to know, anybody who has questions about buses, they go right to Damon. But I also appreciate working with you to craft the framework for the Community Safety Task Force and the town of Carrboro's manager and clerk evaluation updates. It's been a long trip, and you're a very dedicated public servant. I want to congratulate you on being appointed to the Governor's Council. And thank you for your service to Carrboro, the council. And I know that the Carrboro Elementary School kindergartners are going to miss you. So thank you.
You know what? I'm just I must be really excited because I've not let our town manager do her job tonight. As I've been, just kind of introducing each item for the agenda. So I apologize, Town Manager Parker. If you want to just kind of take over, we're on, we're actually on F. Bye-bye.
The next item is the election of Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. So we are I see Mr. Councilmember Prasada's finger for the election of Mayor Pro Tem. According to our recently adopted procedures manual, we do say that it is someone who, the longest serving council member who has not had a chance to serve as Mayor Pro Tem as of yet. And so I see Councilmember Prasada's hand raised, so I'll recognize him.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And correct, I was wanted to have the distinct honor of nominating my friend and colleague, Councilmember Nall, to be the Mayor Pro Tem in accordance with our traditions and I recently passed procedures manual. So, Councilmember Now, I am deeply honored to call you a friend, and I look forward to electing you as Mayor Pro Tem.
So we have a motion on the floor. Can I get, is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Frey. Is there any discussion? Let's move to the vote. All in favor of Councilmember Danny Now being our next Mayor Pro Tem, please say aye.
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 Of course. Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries. Congratulations, Councilmember Now, our new Mayor Pro Tem.
Do we not move? Wait, what happened? Oh wait, no. What happened?
Consent agenda? Or
I'm
or
just waiting for. Oh, yeah. I don't think you're going to move now. You'll probably move for the January meeting. You can
great,
move
yeah.
now.
I mean, I can. Do you guys want me to move now? I'm going to move now. I don't.
It's up to you. Bring it on. Bring it on over here.
This is Leslie. I should be standing up.
What is the? Just oh well, all right. I thought you were taking your chair. There's 6 of us. All right, look. Who's here now? This is my whole.
Jason's supposed to be. He was wanted to be on the end. Over here.
All right. Putting the pro in pro tempore.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. The first item on the consent agenda is the approval of abstract of votes cast at the November 7th, 2023 election. This item is for the Town Council to consider approval of the abstract of votes cast at the November 7th, 2023 election. The next item is the adoption of the 2024 meeting calendar. This item is for the Town Council to adopt the 2024 meeting calendar. The next item is the Town Council committee assignments, and this item is to allow the Town Council to consider committee assignments for 2024. The final item is a resolution calling a special election or affirming the decision to fill the council member seat vacant by the election of Mayor Barbara Foushee by appointment. And this item is to allow the Town Council to decide to call a special election or to go through the process of appointment to fill the vacancy on the Town Council.
Thank you. Councilmember Now.
I'd like to pull item number 4 and move items 1 through 3.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Now to move consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3. Pulling number 4, seconded by Councilmember Haven O'Donnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We will move to consent agenda item number 4. I do have a few comments about that item. So, for the public, this council can either appoint or call for a special election to fill the 2 years left on the vacant seat because of my election to mayor. Both are legitimate actions to take by this council. And, you know, I feel we have all been elected to make procedural decisions such as this one. Appointments are used across the state to fill vacant seats, even though past council's prerogative has been to call for a special election the last few times. Let's keep in mind this is a different council. It has changed by almost half and may or may not follow past council actions. The options before us are to fold this special election into the March 2024 primary, a shift from what is usually a May primary. To fold this special election into the November 2024 general election, to appoint someone to the vacant seat, take no action and govern with 6 council members until 2025. The first option would need our decision tonight. And so, and that would be the one if we decided to fold the special election into the March 2024 primary. Those are the facts in front of me and open for discussion. Councilmember Now, Posada, Haven O'Donnell, pray. Okay.
Here we go. Thank you, Mayor Fushi. And yeah, there's a lot on my mind with this item. And a lot of it is informed by the, auspicious night that we have here tonight. I think anytime we turn over a new council, but particularly this one, it's an opportunity to just reflect on the opportunity that we have to just kind of rededicate ourselves to the community, and really make sure, I'm reminded with new colleagues coming on, just how critical it is that we really do represent all of the people who got us here, and how, with our different platforms and different interests, we all speak to, all of town from different places, and hopefully between the six of us do reach all of town. And so, it's sort of a powerful moment to think about the opportunities we have to build some community in this moment of transition. And, with some big decisions that have been behind us on this council in the past couple months, more big decisions, are obviously informed by those. And so I just very plainly am really excited about the opportunity with my colleagues here to make sure that we're really listening and really reflecting the will of our whole community. And to that end, just in the sake of full transparency for those of you who know and those of you who don't know, this has been a really complicated issue. As Mayor Fushi said, the sort of state standard for these seats is to appoint. And I think that this is because of a couple reasons. As acknowledging that Carrboro has, for the past couple times we've had this decision, we've had special elections. I'll circle back around to that. I'm going to talk for a little while with apologies. Anyway, the reason I think most governments appoint is because these are real questions of fairness about how best to approach these seats. And they're real questions of equity. There's, to me, the real concern that when you have a special election, essentially what happens is one of these council seats has to run twice as much as any other seat for, essentially no legislative or policy-driven reason. It becomes a real barrier to a given seat to have sort of twice the campaign burden upon that seat for no good reason. So, for instance, I was elected on a 4-year cycle. I got to run one time, but we faced the prospect of maybe having 2 seats on this council, having to carry twice that burden, which strikes me as ungainly and not equitable. That, I think, has a chilling effect on the number of residents who might be willing to run. And this is something that we've really been considering quite heavily. And then on the other side, of course, there's the special election, which I think it's an election. And we've heard from a lot of people who feel really deeply that, these are democratically held seats and they need to be elected. And, this has turned into one of these discussions that's been really tough in Carrboro, and the tone of it has been really difficult over the past couple days. And there have been moments where I think people who are civically educated enough to know better have engaged in some rhetoric that has been pretty harmful. I think there's been sort of a widespread perception that we were in some way not considering this seriously or predisposed to be hasty about this. And I think that I relish the opportunity to correct that, because we have been discussing this really deeply amongst ourselves individually, and I've certainly been considering it really deeply. And so I am of the opinion filing has already begun for the March election. As such, effectively, calling an election for filing that has already begun is basically a non-starter for me. I see that as democratically non-viable. It would mean that somebody would have to file and mount an entire campaign within the 9 days before it closes and have a much shorter than typical period to mount a full campaign. Usually when we have done this in the past, the primary's been in May and now it's in March. So as far as I'm concerned, that is just basically non-viable, which has led me for most of the week to favor an appointment for the reasons that I think most of the state does. But as I've heard from folks and thought about this a little more, I think that the path forward here is to move to a November special election. I think that this is the most practical way to take care of some of the, just to balance the many equity concerns that we have. And to make sure that the many residents who have spoken up understand that we are responsive as always. But that also, we've been balancing in good faith really complicated issues here. And these concerns of equity and access to this office are concerns of democracy. the conversation about whether we might appoint is not a frivolous consideration. It certainly has nothing to do with a recent election or new council members. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that would sort of be a level of political machination that is beneath my colleagues. And so with that in mind, I think that the thing to do here is to stick with precedent for a special election for recent precedent, but to have it in November 2024. And then I want to just plant at the board that we face this because we have an anomalous situation in Carrboro. We had a very acrimonious election in, I believe, 2005, which caused us to amend our town charter to allow for these special elections, which now makes us relatively unique among the state. I believe there's only 3 municipalities. I would like us to revisit the town charter away from the season of an election when we do not have an open seat and move to make appointments the policy going forward. I believe that that's the most equitable, total, neutral decision because it allows us to remove this. The thing that the special election doesn't address is that we still have this seat which is going to have to run twice as much. And that's going to persistently be, I think, a bad policy outcome at any time. But given where we are in the community and with recent precedent, and the fact that we are 6 and that this decision may well be better made as 7, I would like us to have a special election that gives us plenty of time to have that as equitably as possible. And then I would urge us to consider re-amending the town charter to make the appointment the standard. I'm so sorry for talking so long, but I just think that it's been a weighty issue, and the night that it is, and just some of the decisions this council has had kind of just merits some transparency and discussion and laying it all out. And so I very much appreciate your patience.
Is
So
that a
motion? Motion to consider a special election in November 2024, coinciding with the federal election on first Tuesday.
Motion from Councilmember Now, second from Councilmember Posada to call for a special election in November 2024. And next on my list for discussion is Councilmember Posada, then Haven O'Donnell, and then Frey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of the points that I wanted to hit tonight have been touched on by our Mayor Pro Tem. We'll call you that, by the way. Yes, as I looked at this item, there's a multiple things that I've been considering over not just the last week, but as we have heard the results of the election. I am that one person on this board who has had to run twice in less than 18 months. I had to run when a special election was called because I had a calling to serve, and I have a calling to serve community. It wasn't easy. I had to step down from my job with less than a week's notice in order to be able to mount a campaign because my job that I held at the time would not allow me to do this. Not only that, I then had to turn around less than a year after I was sworn in to start this process again. As we look and talk in Carrboro about how much we value equity and inclusion, how are we being equitable or including folks who don't have the capacity to mount an election at a moment's notice? Who don't have the support to leave their job in order to hold an election because they know that they want to serve this community? How are we including our Black and brown folks? How are we including folks who have not historically had a voice at this table or the resources that many in our community don't have, yet many of those who don't have the resources have the immense capability and learned and lived experience to sit on this dais and represent our community. So while I am deeply unhappy with forcing someone to go through 2 elections in less than a year, I understand the need for it. Now, let's be real. We are in this situation because a council decided that it was too hard for them to do what was legally required of them by North Carolina, to the point that they decided to change the law so that it wasn't hard. We make hard decisions on this council every time we sit here. And simply saying that we are going to do special elections moving forward, or take that, I guess at that point, North Carolina mandated responsibility because it's too hard, that's not leading. So I have moved, or I've seconded this motion. I'll vote for this motion. But I want us, and I will be calling, like the Mayor Pro Tem, that we revisit that poorly made decision years ago, so that we're not forcing folks who want to serve our community, who want to represent our community, to jump through a million hoops in order to be able to do it. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
And so, Town Manager Parker, you heard the request to revisit our town's charter in reference to this item. So I'm sure you'll let us know when we get it scheduled. Thank you. Councilmember Haven O'Donnell.
I support the voters voting in a special election. I can be comfortable with it being in November. Democracy places the voters ahead of the candidates. We have to remember that. When candidates' preferences come first, that's how you end up with gerrymandering and manipulation of who the voters are. In 2006, 2007, it was a very challenging time to figure out, and very controversial to figure out, the appointment process. Joel Brown, who is a judge in our county, and Mark Chilton, who is also an attorney, were sitting on our council. They did not make the recommendation to look at the charter and the addition of a special election in the charter because it was an easy way out. They did it because it helped to bring community together. Because when the community votes, the community takes responsibility for the outcome. It was 3 months from the time that the appointment was made until the charter was completed. I would resist a recommendation to amend the town charter because that's what gives us flexibility, and we don't know what will happen in the future. But the alderman at the time of which I was sitting there had the foresight to understand that even though we had a messy appointment, that we should allow for another way, a more flexible way for us to make decisions. And for that reason, I do not feel comfortable saying it was a poorly made decision. It was a decision that was discussed over many months. And it was very carefully deliberated by the alderman at the time. So I'm comfortable with the motion. I think it underscores that the vote belongs to the community, that regardless of how we would want to say how much we represent community, there are voices that I'm sure we cannot represent, but a vote would allow that. The question of timing and equity, I could push back on that, but the most important thing to say is that it is unfortunate when candidates, that there are financial issues and there are timing issues. That's one of the reasons the Carrboro Board of Aldermen chose to put a $250 cap on donations to campaigns, because we wanted to make things as close to fair and equitable as we could. So there's a lot more to this. And Danny, I appreciate you saying that it's complex. It is enormously complex, especially when you take into account how sensitive we are at this moment in this unprecedented history in our democracy, when we talk about asking the community to accept a board, a council, making a decision about a vote that they could have. Folks are very sensitive about that issue right now. And in point of truth, we all need to be sensitive about our vote going forward in 2024. And we all need to covet the fact that our vote is what our democracy is about, as well as the peaceful, appropriate transition of administration and power, which is what we saw take place tonight. So I'm saying this because I want this council going forward to realize that even though we may end up agreeing that we want to support a special election for November, we really need to spend time thinking about whether or not we would entertain a change to the town charter and what that means. I cannot be more direct than to say that the people who made the decision and the thought and the careful intentionality of creating flexibility was so that councils going forward, like the one that sits here today, would have an option. And that would not have been the case had the Board of Aldermen at the time left it as an appointment.
So thank you, Councilmember Haven O'Donnell, for that history, and for your comments. And so it would be a discussion for sure, and we're not even sure there would be a change, or not, but certainly, I guess I'm looking around and seeing who is interested, in having that discussion. Certainly Councilmember Nowell is for one, and I'm just kind of looking around to see. So yeah, so we'll just move forward with that discussion sometime in the future. And so we're going over to Councilmember Frey.
If you'll permit me, I'm going to continue to tell a little bit of history. And the reason that I want to do this is because even having lived in Carrboro and having been involved in Carrboro, I guess, politics writ large, right, down at the advisory board level, for as long as I have, I was not familiar with the history of this change to the charter. And of course, we've all received plenty of emails from people. I wanted, first of all, to thank everyone who sent us an email. We got a wide array of requests from folks, including some things that we are not actually authorized by law to do. And it became apparent to me that it was quite widespread that folks did not know the history of this and did not know the legal context of the choice that this council makes each time there is a vacancy. In fact, it wasn't unusual for the council to call for information from staff about this or to have it on the agenda, because it's on the agenda each time there is a vacancy, to consider our options, and has been ever since 2007. So Randy, I think, has given us the background, most of the background of the contentious vote in 2006. I'll just add to that there were some very specific historical contexts to that election, including Carrboro's then extremely fresh involuntary annexation of a part of town that led to a vigorous campaign, including mayoral and council campaign. That the appointment process was for 12 applicants. It was a large pool, including some folks who had just lost an election, some folks who had not run, a whole crowd of potential representation. And one of the interesting things about that is that most members of the recently elected part of Carrboro had not, in fact, been eligible to run in that election. And so at that time, the appointment was, in fact, the only way, unless you had the dedication to move to town. That appointment was actually the only way for those people to have representation on the town council. The process of reviewing those applicants went on for quite a while, there being 12 of them, and the board of aldermen at the time being very interested in making sure that they got a thorough hearing of everyone. In fact, one of those applicants was our former mayor, Lydia Lavelle. And in the end, the 6 seated members of the alderman and the mayor deadlocked 3-3 on 2 candidates, Dan Coleman and Lydia Lavelle. That vote went on for, I believe, a couple of sessions without really moving. And it was actually Councilmember Haven O'Donnell who changed her vote from having supported Lydia Lavelle to supporting Dan Coleman in order to break that deadlock. So in the wake of that very specific moment in time, Carrboro moved swiftly to change its charter, to get a local act from the General Assembly, because that is what is required to change the charter. It's not something that the town does by itself. The town petitions the General Assembly to change the rules for us. By state law, every vacancy that occurs at that midpoint or after must be filled by appointment by the town council. So I just want to note that it's not at all unusual. In fact, every other town in Chapel Hill in North Carolina, with 2 other exceptions, so Chapel Hill appoints, Wilmington appoints, Raleigh appoints. This is completely normal. It's something that towns do all over the state. The other 2 exceptions are Elizabeth City and Durham. I don't know about the history in Elizabeth City. I was not able to stay awake that long. But I did dig into some of the history in Durham. Durham has, since getting their change to their charter, has on some occasions appointed and on some occasions called a special election at different times, depending on the circumstances, depending on the timing of the vacancy relative to the timing of the upcoming municipal election. So among towns that have both choices, also it is common for one or both to be used. In Carrboro's case, we did something kind of interesting. We did not actually change our charter to the language that we have today. Carrboro changed its charter to require a special election as the only option. Unfortunately, this did turn out to have been a bad idea. As became apparent the very next time there was a vacancy. In 2013, when Damon Siles signed up to run a special election to fill a vacancy, which at that time the town council had no choice but to call a special election. That election was held in March. So in fact, the The filing period was in December for a mid-March election, a little bit later even than the one we would be looking at. And Damon was unopposed. No one else was able to get their ducks in a row fast enough to file, or no one else was interested in filing under those circumstances. Because that particular election was also out of cycle, being in March, it cost the town thousands of dollars to run an election with a guaranteed outcome. And the feedback was scathing at the time. What were we thinking to put ourselves in this bind where we have to hold an election even if it doesn't make sense and even if it makes absolutely no difference to the outcome? As a result of that, the Board of Aldermen went back to the state and they said, we need a small correction. And we arrived at the language that we have today, which gives the council the option to choose either method of filling a vacancy, which, like state law, but to a slightly greater degree, entrusts the council to make a sensible decision on behalf of the people who have elected us, to find the correct way of filling each given vacancy. And since then, in 2014, there was a 4-2 vote, 4 votes in favor of a special election and 2 against, one of whom was Damon Siles, who I'm sure remembered vividly the process of running a special election against no one. In 2017, the council had a vacancy come up in May of the year in which the municipal election would be held. And they said, you know what, no, we're going to leave this one vacant until November. We can wait 6 months. It doesn't make sense to do an appointment in this time. And according to our rules, we would not be permitted to hold a special election if we were within the last year of the term. Because there's a recognition that there is a point where it is inappropriate or wasteful or just silly to hold a special election, depending on, again, the circumstances of the vacancy and the conditions of the upcoming election. And then, of course, in 2021, we had the vacancy that led to the election of Eleazar Posada, who then had to turn around and run again the next year. So I think it's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that, honestly, the folks who watch this recording or who are watching live understand is the context, the ordinary context in which an appointment is also part of the exercise of democracy as we do it in North Carolina. I will just make one note with regard to Danny's suggestion about the charter. The most common situation in which we have a vacancy has been, over the time period that we've had this choice to make, has been when a sitting council member is elected as mayor. It doesn't matter that sort of everyone can see that that's happening, particularly if the mayoral election is uncontested. Even then, not everyone is going to plan 6 months ahead for a potential special election. But as a town council, we should be able to see that that is probably the most likely circumstance for vacancies to occur over and over again. That means we should consider sort of what is the likelihood, what are the conditions of that special election. This was a different decision to make until the General Assembly changed the primary to March, hunting for that coveted early decider state status. Yep. We are now trying to perform a much more complicated administrative feat, or asking something different of our town to do a special election with the primary being moved to March. I did the math. From the end of filing to the beginning of early voting will be 60 days from the end of filing to the election itself will be 91 days, which is 1 day outside the statutory limit at which we would not be permitted to call a special election because it's insufficient turnaround time. So this thing is tight. And depending on the days of the week and, where things fall, we may get some truly ludicrous combinations of dates out through the years and decades and future occasions when vacancies arise. So I would be interested to think through our charter, particularly in regard to, I think it's very good to have an option of a special election. It's a very Carrboro thing for us to be special in that way. But I am not sure that a special election always is going to make sense for these midterm sort of mayor-generated vacancies. So I'd be interested in looking at our language, particularly around the midterm elections, where if you look at the state law, it gives very clear direction as to how to fill a vacancy. And if you look at our current situation, we come back and go round this loop over and over again, even though we know that this is going to happen again at some point in the future. So I'm interested to, have that conversation. I don't think that we should be taking anything to the General Assembly until we have a full council to discuss it with. I also lend my support to the motion on the table. Thank you for humoring me to go take us through that history and context. I really think that when we're talking about these dry and boring procedural questions, which are my favorite kind, because I'm that kind of nerd, when we're talking about these, it is important to have all the context, and it helps keep folks from stressing themselves out unduly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Frey. Any comments, Councilmember Merrill? He's all good.
Neither of them brought notes. Amazing.
Yeah, and so I really appreciate this council and the way that the history has been laid out by council members Haven O'Donnell and Councilmember Frey. I've appreciated all the input that we've received. I am very comfortable calling a special election for November 2024. It absolutely speaks to the equity issue, the concerns that I'm hearing around equity, and gives the opportunity for folks to have sufficient time to mount up robust campaigns, to be able to raise money, get a good campaign team, all the things that some of us just finished doing. And so it also puts the vote in the hands of community. And so I also am very comfortable, like I said, with the special election in November 2024. The motion is on the table. It has been seconded. Are we ready for the question?
The question.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of this council calling a special election for November 2024 to fill the vacancy that was created when I became the mayor?
That's right. That's when it was created.
Check that microphone hot. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. So all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have called for a special election for November 2024. Thank you, Council. I'm sorry, Councilmember Posada.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do believe I am in line to call for an adjournment.
You know what?
Go Heels.
Before we adjourn, before anyone moves out, I also want to appreciate town staff, town manager Parker, our illustrious town clerk. They've just been on it, in getting all this together. And helping all of us, to make this night one to remember. Everything was on point. Everything was in place. And thank you so much. I appreciate you. So motion on the floor to adjourn by Councilmember Posada. Second?
Seconded.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Now. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.